Okay, we're good.
Hi.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Black Buzz, man. Hope everyone's doing all right. Of course, you have myself, you have Lamar, you have Shay Shay. Normally we have Tia, but she's not here today. Shout outs to T Kicks from in terms of what she does there. What is it? Shoe customization. Yes, yes, yes.
Restorations
The
and
shoe
restorations.
customization. She would kill me if I
Yes, she would.
he keeps doing her shoe customization. And today we have with us a special guest. We have Miss Tanicia Reedon.
That's right.
How you doing, Miss?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on in this awesome platform. It's a beautiful thing and grateful to be here.
All right, man. Glad that you're here. Glad that you're here. So this is Black Buzz, and the audience. We push this out to. They know already that all things black. That's what we focus on. If you're
Like every day.
Yeah. if, so if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business person or business owner, whatever the case is, and you're black, we definitely look forward to bringing you on here and just let the folks know what's going on in the community. So let me give a little bit bio in terms of our guests here. Miss Tanisha's passion is to become a doula came to her at age 13 when her mother was pregnant with her first sister, experiencing firsthand the ups and downs that flowed from pregnancy to birth and beyond. It cemented her desire to care for parents and baby, a new parent and baby, after literally bumping into a midwifery student on the TTC. One day, she realized she could turn her passion into a career. Tanisha is a trained labor doula and certified postpartum doula, and her doula arsenal includes, I like that, breast, chest feeding, developing the bond between parent and baby, sex after birth, pelvic floor health, new parent education, and Tanisha looks forward to hypnobirthing. I hope I said that right. It's hypnobirthing, right? Classes in 2020. With two teenage sisters at home, she is the unofficial period expert in her family and among friends. She is fiercely passionate about social justice issues, especially those that affect women, and has led women's health seminars and lunch and learn sessions at previous jobs. Tanisha loves to travel and has lived and worked with families in Italy and Spain, as well as volunteered in Germany, Ukraine, and India. Passionately empowering parents is what the Doula Experience stands for. Experience the support you deserve with us. All right. So, Miss Tanisha, let's talk about honestly, sometimes my fellow hosts laugh at me because when I when I come up on something that even though I've heard of a doula, I know a little bit, I understand what it's all about and midwifery and all that sort of stuff. I will admit that there are a lot of things I don't know about it, right? So, pardon my clueless questions, right?
We're all here to learn. There's no need to apologize or anything.
All right, all right. So, all right. So, even though we have a little bit about your bio, tell us a little bit more about yourself in terms of, we know that, we've got a little bit of your education and all that sort of stuff, but just delve a little bit more before we jump into what you do and, all these different things.
Oh, I don't know where to begin. I mean, I'm a multi-passionate person. There's a lot of things that I love, and health is one of those things.
Right.
I'm also a dancer. I've performed in different music videos and Pan Am Games, on stage with Kanye West and everything. And so I've done a lot of different cool things. and I hope, knock on wood, that I'm blessed to still be able to do those awesome things. And I really believe that life is a journey. It's every year we're becoming something different. And I think obviously this year has proven that you can't stay stagnant in whatever you're doing. So once we get into everything about my doula work, it's even pushed and humbled me a lot in this industry on what's possible and what you have to do to survive and continue to be creative to offer family support.
Okay. So,
Okay,
okay.
so the first thing, some of us, as KP said, he knows a bit of it. What is a doula? Like, what exactly is a midwife? Let's get that out into the air for everybody to hear, and then we can start there.
Okay, awesome. So the traditional definition and term for a doula is not one that I like to continue to use, but when I was first researching this, what I came up with is that it is a Greek word or a Latin word, and it means a woman who serves.
Serves, yeah.
So for multiple reasons, you can tell why that doesn't sit well with me. And because of obviously our modern world, it's expanded to that. So really a doula is a trained and experienced professional who is there to educate and guide a family or a birthing person through whatever stage of their parenthood journey. And again, that even looks differently because I've worked with adoptive parents, surrogates, where the non-birthing parents have hired me to help the surrogate through their birth. So you can be a birth doula. So, that means obviously you're working with that family for the birth, but parents can also hire you just for postpartum when the baby comes, which is, a lot of people spend so much time preparing for the birth and then they bring the baby home and they're like,
yes,
you know what I mean? It's harder than I thought. So I work with clients on that as well. And then obviously the education piece. The main difference, I'd say, differences with doctors, midwives, doulas. First of all, we all are on the same team. The team of healthy baby, healthy parents, healthy family. Doctors and midwives are more on par. So they are kind of waist down. They deal with everything clinical. Doctors more specialize in the pathology, so how things can go wrong in birth and postpartum, and surgery. Midwives have been helping families give birth since the dawn of time. So again, they deal with everything waist down. Clinical, writing notes, charting, reporting. If something goes wrong and there's emergency, they are the ones who are going to take care. It's the healthcare team, life-saving team. The doulas are waist up. So we are the emotional guides, the support, the information to help you practice advocating for yourself, empowering yourself. A lot of the times now when you go to a hospital or even sometimes a midwifery practice, you've been working with one particular midwife or doctor, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have that midwife or doctor at your birth because they work on a rotating team schedule. So if you really want, you and your partner or whomever your main support system is, if you want that one person who's going to be with you for an extended period of time, someone who's been with you and knows your history, and then will be able to be there with you after and help you decompress and offer you support, that's becoming a lot more attractive to people. And so that would be the doula. So you would hire me as your birth doula, and we would have a couple of prenatal meetings to educate and get ourselves situated, get to know each other, because it's a very transitional, vulnerable time becoming a parent. And then I'm there at the birth. Obviously that's changed slightly to COVID, which I'm sure we'll get into. And then I usually do a postpartum visit, a couple of follow-up visits. And then either they can extend that care, and then I'm just working as their postpartum doula after that.
Okay. See, I didn't even know that. I thought that midwifery and doula were the same exact thing.
Yeah. A lot of people think that, but really you can have a doctor and a midwife, and you can have a doula for both of those options. Yeah. The only thing doulas should not be doing, because we do have a scope of practice that we work within, again, nothing clinical. We're not going to be at an unassisted birth because we can't help in that case, right? So we'd have to call the ambulance or something like that.
So you guys sometimes go to the hospital and hold a hand, or no? Well, I know in this town we can't do that, but are you guys usually by the bedside? And
Yes, absolutely. That's basically what it's been. So when you think about a doula, honestly, this is the way I like to break it down. Think back home, or even like 40 years ago, a doula was the auntie in the community. It was the grandma, it was the sister,
Okay.
wife in the community. That person who either didn't have kids themselves or had a lot of kids themselves and had a lot of experience and availability to help that family, to help that mother, that new parent. But because of travel and industrialization and modernization, families have dispersed. Communities are not as robust and strong as they once were. And so this industry has blown up because that support is needed even more so now, with very different stressful demands on life than 40, 50 years ago. And so, and also sometimes you don't want maybe like a close family member to be all up in your business, or it's a very vulnerable time. And I think a lot of people seek value in having a stranger that they can be who they want to be with this person, because they know after that, the contract is done and there's not going to be any prejudice or judging after the fact. So you come in, you give me the support that I need and that I want, the guidance, the education. You're not going to judge me. You're on my team. And that's the end of that. Versus sometimes with a friend or a family member, you may be a little apprehensive about telling them why you want to do whatever choice you want. And so you want someone who's unbiased. And that's what we
You answered one thing I was going to ask in terms of, you said this industry has exploded. So I guess my question was towards like how prevalent it is, right? But when you say that it exploded, is it because of a particular reason, or it's just people see the benefit of it, and that's something that developed over time, like?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably all of those things, to be honest. I have a couple of doula mentors who've been doulas for 20 years. Right?
Okay.
That's been their bread and butter for 20 years, but it wasn't as common. It wasn't as well known as a profession.
Right.
It really started to become, it's become more of a respected profession, I'd say, in the last 5 to 7 years. And that is because people in the industry have really pushed it to be like that. So, you have these professional training organizations, certifications, there's a lot more collaboration with the hospitals and whatnot. And then also social media. I mean, really think about it. Social media is only 10 years old, if that. And so it's exploded tons of businesses that probably would have never had the visibility that they had prior to that. And so now there's a whole revolution within the millennial kind of generation of really owning and celebrating and showcasing things that were pretty taboo prior to that. And so this has opened up a door to say, okay, these things, we're working on them not continuing to be taboo, which now includes, mental health and all of that within the maternal space, the maternal health space. And that's what doulas, midwives, doctors, nurses were all about, that in collaboration.
Okay.
How soon do you get involved, like in terms of the whole industry? Like when you get a call, like at what point do people normally call you, or how does that work?
So I mean, I've had people who've told me that they want me to be their doula before they're even pregnant, and then I've had people who like, I'm due in 2 weeks. I need somebody. So it ranges. Ideally, it would be after the first trimester. That's when obviously things usually are a little bit more, a little less rocky in terms of, whether or not you're going to be able to sustain the pregnancy. And, the pregnant person is doing a lot of physical work. The first 3 months of pregnancy, you're growing all the organs of that human. You're tired, you're exhausted. So you usually can't really think beyond that. And you're working and you're still expected to operate as if nothing's happening. So typically I'd say after 12 weeks, that's when the inquiries happen. The sweet spot is usually between 26 weeks or so.
Right.
So well into the second trimester. And then depending on when the due date is, we would line up prenatal meetings, and, there'd be classes that I would do individually with, and then 2 weeks before the due date, I don't know if you guys are a little frozen. I'm not sure if you can still see me.
We can hear you, but you just
2 weeks before the due date. Okay. Is there anything I need to repeat?
No, you're good. We heard everything.
We heard everything. Yeah.
Weeks before the due date, I'm technically on call. So if they hired me as a birth doula for that 2 week period, they can call me anytime, day or night, with any questions, because I am solely dedicated to them and will go to them if they need my support. In my mind, as a doula, we always operate with 6 weeks of being on call, because babies can always come early or come late. But that 2 week period is when you're not traveling more than like a couple hours away. Like you're really focused on being with that family.
Okay. Would doulas, would they be the ones holding the Lamaze classes, or was that a complete different person altogether? Oh,
Sorry, guys, it's frozen again.
oh, well, we can hear you though.
I can hear you.
Can you missed it?
Yeah.
Oh, Lama's classes, would that be something that you guys would be in charge of, or would be somebody else completely?
Okay, I caught the tail end of that one more time. Sorry.
Lama's Lama's classes, you know, like the class parents attend, would that be something that would be in your field, or is it somebody else completely different?
Great question. So that would be in my field. Lamaze is technically like a trade name, so like a trademark. So it's like Kleenex or like Band-Aid, right? That's
Oh, okay.
company.
Mhm.
But that whole educational component is called a
Yeah.
prenatal class or childbirth class.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And so on top of the childbirth class, we also have newborn care or postpartum prep classes. So
Mhm.
again, also focusing on preparing parents for when baby gets here.
Mhm.
But yes, so there are some doulas that's all they do. They've done their 15 years of experience, or maybe they only have like 2 years of experience, but they're really great at educating. And that's what they offer their clients. They have tons of classes, they do online events, and they focus on education. Whereas other doulas, they're just strictly in the field and helping clients that way.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You spoke about millennials, right? In terms of doula, being a doula, or okay, you brought up millennials. Is it being a doula, or is it millennials that do tend to gravitate towards the industry a little bit? What exactly did you mean in terms of?
Yeah, I think what I meant was millennials themselves as a generation have really pushed the social media envelope and microphone to talk about things publicly that were usually silenced or quiet beforehand,
Right.
which in every other generation, permission or support to continue that. So we're still seeing all generations have doulas.
Yeah.
If I'm an older parent, I might want an older doula. If I'm a younger doula, vice versa, right?
Yeah.
But the millennial generation has really pushed that whole really important conversation, and it's just opened up a different avenue for people to talk about things and get support.
Okay. COVID. You also spoke about that. Well, you alluded to it in terms of how has this affected? I know before you came on, I think Shay was saying that um, I guess a lot of babies would have been
Yeah, Rona babies. It's true. From the moment we got on lockdown, I
yeah.
have so many nieces and nephews that are on their way from now till December. So, would this be the time that you would be in full business mode?
I would say next year, spring and
Yeah.
summer, maybe very busy. Again, that depends on COVID, right? So right now in Toronto, Toronto hospitals are only still allowing one support person. And so for most people, that's going to be their partner or their mom or somebody. Whereas before, pre-COVID, it would have been their partner, their mom, whoever, plus the doula. So the
Right.
only hospitals that are allowing two support people is, I believe, one of the hospitals in Peterborough and the main hospital in Hamilton right now. Toronto hospitals are not there yet, and I don't know when they will be. So in terms of how it's affected things, I mean, yes, there probably will be a lot of babies being born, and hopefully we can attend all of them or most of them. But two things I think has really happened, at least for the industry and for myself. Like I mentioned earlier, it's humbled me a lot, and a lot of other doulas I know, especially older doulas, or sorry, I should say more experienced doulas, in that because we weren't able to be there, it's really pushed us to be really great at educating and preparing our clients, because that, I'm just going to be a little heteronormative here, so excuse me, but that dad who was like, Tanisha, you need to be there. Like, I need you to be there at the birth, like really nervous. And I'm like, look, you're going to be fine. You're going to call me. You've done all the prep. I've showed you all the things. Doula daddy, right? And it's been humbling as a doula to know that, I don't have to necessarily be there for the birth to go well. But historically speaking, and I'm sure we'll get into this, especially when we're talking about Black maternal health, having that extra support person in the room, that educated person, even just as a guide, even just as a silent figure, really does increase the positive experience for those families, for those parents, and the outcomes.
Right.
There is research and data to back up, that having a doula or a support person reduces C-section rates and all these kinds of things. But anecdotally, we know as Black people that when you want to be taken seriously and you need to be heard, a lot of the times you don't feel like you can do that by yourself, because a lot of the times we're not listened to, we're not taken care of. And I'm not a doctor, and I totally respect and love doctors. I mean, I was a preemie baby. I was 3 pounds, 2 ounces, born 6 weeks early via C-section. So thank God for them. But there's a lot of racial and gender bias within the medical system. I mean, their doctors were interviewed, these are educated doctors. They were interviewed and they asked them, do you believe that Black women or Black females have a higher pain tolerance than any other kind of female?
Okay.
And 70% of them said yes.
Yeah. I saw that research.
These are medical professionals. And so it's just like, but that just shows the bias that they have, because it's like, that's impossible. We're the exact same humans. We're all the same humans. A Black lab is not any different than a golden retriever lab, right? So how on earth would the Black lab have a higher pain tolerance than the golden lab? But these are the things that we have to continue to work and break down barriers for.
Well, let's since we're there now, let's continue down that road. I'm a big proponent when it comes to social justice issues. That particular stat that you quoted, yes, I've read it. I've also read another one, came out in CNN and all of the major news outlets as well, that even though was it? So the stat said that Black babies are dying at a higher rate, right, than babies of other, cultural groups, right? I'm in terms of what else you can talk to us about that, and the implicit bias are involved in that and all those different things. So say more on that, because your bio mentioned that you're into social justice and strong, you promote this. So
yeah. So I mean, I shouldn't say we all know, because maybe we don't, but there is a fact in reality in the modern gynecology was formulated on the backs of Black slaves.
Yes.
Remission without anesthesia, any of that, right? And so from a fundamental level, if that is the base, which sometimes is still not even acknowledged, it will trickle down and continue to be embedded in how families and birthing parents are treated in the hospital, and also babies. There could be implicit bias of, if a Black baby is crying versus a white baby, who's going to be taken care of first. And I mean, again, I am not an expert, and I'm not going to say that this happens and I've seen it personally, but I know it does happen. Otherwise, the data and the questioning of this data wouldn't exist.
Right.
What I think is important to understand for my clients and the Black clients that I work with is that we do spend some time on the history, and we do spend a lot of time really working on flexing their empowerment muscle and their no muscle. So, I have had clients where, because the narrative when you're giving birth is that it's crazy painful, right? And so when you have a doula, or you have, a calm family who's really working through the pain. I mean, for goodness sake, it's labor. It's a lot of work. It's pain, right? So,
I know.
We know that, but
I know.
it's called labor. It's work. So, for a family, you've heard, right? So,
yeah.
So for a family who's working through that pain without necessarily screaming and wailing, which is totally fine, because our primal brain turns on, and that's not something that you should ignore. But for some of those families who work through the hypnobirthing and they're breathing and really getting in meditative states to work through that pain, sometimes if they're not wailing and screaming, the doctors and nurses aren't really paying attention to them. So they might have gone into the hospital at 2 centimeters or what have you, working through it, maybe didn't even get an epidural, working through it. And a couple hours has gone by, and it's like, oh, they haven't done a check yet to see how much further along they've been dilated. But the nurses and the doctors won't, because they're like, well, you seem like you're okay. They're running around doing other things. Keep asking. Not me. because I'm hired by the client. I'm not, as a doula, we don't talk to the hospital staff unless it's out or something, right? It's you and your partner that are really advocating for yourself. I'm going to nudge you. I'm going to say, hey, it's been a while since they checked. Do you want to ask? Maybe we ask. That's what I do. That's what doulas do. We don't step outside of those boundaries. And then I've had, again, they're 2 centimeters and they don't check them for however long. And then all of a sudden they're 10 centimeters, which they knew, the birthing person knew. They're like, I'm ready to push. But again, because they're not screaming, they're not being taken seriously. And when they finally do the check, you're 10 centimeters. Now everyone's running around. And now the energy in the room has gone from calm, controlled to a certain degree, kind of in the lane that the birthing family wants it, to now something else. And now we have to do more work to reorient ourselves back into a space and an energy that feels more aligned to what you want to give birth in. And again, it's not like they're being malicious or anything like that. It's just that there are certain beliefs and standards and visions of what a progressing birthing person sounds and looks like. And if you're outside of that, then what's going on. And then on top of that, if you're outside of that and you're a person of color, it's even further challenging.
Yeah, I'm looking at the article here that I mentioned here from CNN. It says here that there are 3 times. So basically, if the babies are not cared for by Black doctors, they're 3 times more likely to die, right? And the article also said that it's not that the death rate for babies are up. It's just that for this, and all of this is coming out in light of all that we're going through since the death of George Floyd and all the other individuals that we've seen suffered at the hands of police or whoever else, right? But
kind of your establishment that has very rooted systemic racist grounds for sure. And I find that, I've worked with clients who have babies in the NICU, in the neonatal intensive care unit. Again, I was a baby in that for 2 months. I was an incubator. That's how, early I was. And, it's hard because you want to spend time there. You want to go see your baby and, pump your breast milk and have them feed your baby breast milk and be there with them.
Yeah.
In those early days, I give so much love and credit to preemie families because babies are meant to be with their parents as soon as they're born. So, you have first trimester, second trimester, third trimester, babies inside. Fourth trimester is the first 3 months after the baby is born. So the baby's out, but they're on you. They need to be nursed. They need to have skin to skin. They need to smell their birthing parents and regulate their heartbeat and their blood sugars and their temperature and all of that by being close to their family. And, when a baby is taken away, of course, if it's for life-saving reasons, we got to do it. We got to let the healthcare professionals do their job.
Right.
That's why I so encourage family, even if it's not the birthing parents, to go to the hospital, to go to the NICU and, in a sense, have that energy around that this baby is loved. This baby has people. Okay. So just be aware of that, everybody, kind of thing. I don't know. I kind of grew up with that mindset in my household, West Indian household. You gotta show up with your people. You gotta know that you come from family, right?
Yeah.
Or what the situation is, you can't let people think that you don't come from anywhere. So I instill that same rhetoric even in this case, because again, there's a lot of trust that goes into the nurses and the doctors, as there should be, but that trust should not negate your own biologic parental instincts. You know your body, you know your baby. Yes, they have a lot more experience than you, but only you know your baby and your body. And so you have the first authority to make those decisions and to be there always.
Okay, I like that. Was there an instant where you had to be a little bit more forceful than a nudge? You say normally you would nudge the family because you don't necessarily have the interaction with the doctors and the nurses, but when you saw something and you said, man, this is not how it's supposed to go.
I would say thankfully I haven't.
Okay.
I have spoken to some other doula colleagues, and I want to share about this after, but yeah, they've shared some stories with me. Sometimes the thing is that's really hard as a doula, or just even in the birthing room. Things happen so fast that sometimes you can't even wrap your head around like what just happened. Like by the time you acknowledge what happened, it's over. And this wasn't with a Black family, but just again to show sometimes that, and this could be a doula, it could be anybody, it could be your boss, anybody who's in a position of authority. Sometimes they take their position over your decision making and your own well-being, right? Not necessarily your safety, but your own well-being. So again, the doctors want to make sure mom and baby are healthy, or parent and baby are healthy. My job is to make sure that the experience that you are having is healthy, that you're not going to continue to have this generational trauma around birth, around breastfeeding, and all of that with the wet nurses and all that in slavery, and like all the work that we've had to do around breastfeeding in the Black community because of that, birthing in the Black community because of that, parenting in the Black community because of being taken away from your parents, from your kids, and all of that. There's so much unlearning and trauma that we have to heal. And so, this client was giving birth and they had an epidural. So they had an intervention. So anything that you add to the birthing process is an intervention. So if you add in to get the contraction going, intervention. You have an epidural to feel less pain, intervention. So they had an epidural, and so they can't feel anything. And this mother was really happy and excited, but she was very fearful of pain, which we have to do a lot of work around. Because again, it's labor, but very fearful around pain. And so things went from 0 to 100 because, again, they weren't really paying attention to her cues. They were paying attention to her, but not her cues of how things were progressing. And she was getting ready to push now. And she was just like, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. And so she actually put a cloth around her eyes as she's pushing. So her husband's by her head and she's trying to work through it, right? Because when you have an epidural, yes, sometimes you can feel things, but the majority of the time you can't. So you can't actually feel that your uterus is contracting, and you can't also feel that your baby's trying to push too. So when you don't have that, or you have a less intense epidural, you can feel those things and push. And so then you have 3 things all together helping you push this baby out. Baby's moving, contractions, and you're attuned with your body. Everybody work together to get baby out. She couldn't feel any of that. So she pushes twice, and the doctor's like, oh, you're not progressing. I think we're going to have to use the forceps. 2 pushes. And she's like, oh, can I at least try? Pushing usually takes 30 minutes to 45 minutes, right? You're pushing a lot in that time. So
just having flashbacks. You keep flashbacks.
Sorry, the trauma that's re-triggered. So and I was really proud of her for saying that. I didn't say anything, neither did the dad, but she said that. He was like, oh, yes, yes, yes. But as he's saying yes, 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 and I'm trying to help count with her, and we're going over the breathing techniques that we practiced, I see him reaching for the scissors, and I turned to look down to see what he's doing, and I'm about to turn back to say to her something because she said she didn't want an episiotomy, and he cut. She didn't feel anything because she had an epidural, but he didn't ask for permission. He didn't give consent. He didn't tell her what was going on. Which, in some ways is obstetrical violence. Sometimes it has to happen because it's an emergency. In that case, I don't know if it was or wasn't, because again, I'm not a medical professional to say yes or no. But the point is that she didn't know. The point is that she wasn't given that choice to say yes or no. And that doesn't sit right with me as a doula, as a woman, as a progressive human. And this happens more often than we think. And so when I'm with my clients and we're practicing, though, flexing your no muscle, and we're practicing asking questions, not questioning your doctor, not to question your doctor. I'm asking you to ask them questions so that you feel confident with understanding what they've told you, so you can make the best decision for you and your family. That's it. And to me, there's nothing wrong with that. That shouldn't be met with any resistance unless it's an emergency. Right. You don't have time necessarily to go over the risks and benefits of this particular thing. Baby or mom is in danger. Gotta let them do what they gotta do. But if it's not, then can we take some time to think about this? Can you come back and ask me about this again in 5 minutes when I'm not having a contraction? Can you come back to me with some more information? What are the alternatives to this? Like, these are the things that we're talking about, so that if I'm not there, if I have to go to the washroom or fill up the water bottle, and this happens when I'm not there, they're not like lost. This is the first step in becoming a parent, is really knowing what to do in really tough decisions.
All right. Is there do you have a lot of Black people in this industry?
There are a lot more than I think people would think. And so, yes, there are a lot of Black doulas. I actually, but throughout COVID and, like you said, everything that's been going on, one of the founding members of a new society called the Ontario Black Doula Society. And we're a community of experienced doulas in various levels of experience, different life experience and positions in life, but we all have come together with the same mission. And it's just been a beautiful thing, the work that we're doing, the visions that we have, the experience and the stories that are coming through, and the reception as well. And so part of our mandate is to really focus on educating doulas, focus on, you know, infusing anti-Black racism and anti-racism in your birth work, because it's so embedded in this industry, but we're not really taught that from the traditional, usually more white-led, white-founded training organizations, which are now definitely adding that component. But our mandate is to offer culturally competent and relevant training for our community.
So my thing is, as you said, doulas do from waist up. So babies here, postpartum. When you do your courses, are you guys heavy on the mental state of the mom? Is that something that is like really like a particular subject in there that you have to pay attention to? Is it something that you guys pick up knowing that, you know what, I have to be caring? And how does that work? Because I know some parents experience postpartum, some don't, some even don't know that they have it. And so how do you assess that while the baby's here now?
That's a good one. That's a very good question. Slightly loaded, but what basically I do is, I mean, there is definitely a component to that in the training. I wouldn't say that there's a whole lot. You really do have to add supplemental knowledge and training for yourself. But the thing is every birthing parent, they're changing hormonally, right? No matter what. And so to some degree, there is a postpartum mood change because the influx of hormones are so intense that maybe it's not going to lead to psychosis, but you're definitely not who you were before, right? You're never going to be who you were pre-pregnancy. So there's, even from pregnancy, they even have antenatal mood disorders, right? Because you're never the same from the moment you find out you're pregnant till postpartum, which is your forever postpartum. You could have a 40-year-old son and that mother is 40 years postpartum. Because did you know that the DNA of that son is embedded in her blood, embedded in her body forever? So she's forever changed. And this is the power of the female body, the power of all of this. It's so much above our physical understanding, right? It's very spiritual. And anyway, but yes, what I do, because again, I'm not going to be there all the time. I focus time with preparing my clients to have certain conversations when I'm not there. So I give them homework and I say, okay, talk to each other about this. You know, you guys know how you are when you're well, when you're happy, when you are in love, when things are going well in the relationship. Partner, you know you're the birthing person when they are happy, when they're doing well. Write some of those things down, okay? For both of you, because postpartum mood disorders also happen to dads, also happen to partners. If you at some point notice XYZ changes, even a little bit, for even not even an extended period of time, but just a period of time that's outside of the norm, this is now where you guys have to figure out a way that you're going to be able to have that conversation. Because it's one thing to notice the signs. It's another thing for you guys to sit down and discuss in what capacity and way are we going to be able to have this conversation. Does it mean I got to bring my mom over and mom, she's got to watch the new baby and the other kids? And we got to have this conversation. Does it mean I got to have a bath first and calm down and then we have this conversation? Like, because you can't come to me and talk to me about how I've changed when the baby's crying and I'm changing the diaper and the other toddler is running around and throwing things around. That's not going to be a good conversation and we're not going to get anywhere and you're probably going to add to the stress, right? So I really encourage that postpartum prep. It's not just about the nursery and, you know, frozen meals. It's really about we're going to set ourselves up for this massive change of our lives. Because even if you already have kids, right, this new baby is adding a new iteration of this family. So if you're a family of 3, this new baby, just because you're an experienced parent, you've never been a family of 4. So now we got to talk about how we're going to deal with the emotional changes of how we're going to keep our relationship at the forefront. You know, you're going to take care of me. You're going to be that bodyguard as I'm healing and recovering, but also for an extended period of time, what does that support look like? Because it's also a lot of work for the partner to be that one person who can notice. You got to get your aunties, your sisters, whoever else you trust. It takes a village to raise a child. But I would even add, it takes a village to raise a family, because you need that support to help the mothers, to help the fathers become mothers and fathers and siblings and all of that.
Love it. Love it. I'm learning so much. Thanks, Shay, for asking the right question. Lamar and I are like just quiet.
I'm really enjoying this. I really am.
In terms of is this a lucrative field?
I think that it can be, depending on how much effort you put into it. It's hard because, like any other self-employed person,
Yeah.
there's a cap on how much I physically can take on, right?
Right.
As many births or postpartum clients or what have you that I can take on. So a lot of people create businesses or agencies where they hire other doulas to take on these other clients. So yeah, it can be if you are really successful in that way. Usually at that point, you're not working as much in the field because you're running a full-scale business.
Okay.
I think it could be doable, but the balance is a little more tough. But the majority of people are shifting now from this being like a part-time hobby type of situation to like, this is what I do. This is my bread and butter. And that's all I know. So I know that for a lot of people, like 5-10 years ago, maybe that's kind of what it was. But for a lot of people now, this is their job. This is how they put food on the table. As I know single moms who this is their work. Yeah, they got to do a lot of work to get those clients, but it's definitely doable.
Yeah, I have a question. So, during the pre-birth training, right? Have you ever experienced like anyone that has gone through a miscarriage, and like how did you deal with that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have not. That is why, at least in my doula training with my mentors, they really encourage that you don't take on clients until they're at least past that first trimester. But again, we know infant loss is a lot more common than we talk about. It's a lot more common in second, third, and a lot of times, even birthing stillborn babies or a couple days later, it happens, y'all. And what we need to talk about it, we need to offer those family support. Because like I said, it happens a lot more often than you think. In those cases, I have other doulas that's happened to them. And, we're doulas. We offer support. And so, there are some doulas who are, lost doulas, death doulas, miscarriage doulas, abortion doulas. They're really working with these families who've lost babies or what have, made that really difficult decision, and they need support. For those doulas who, maybe they lost the baby a couple weeks in or in the second trimester, some people will just give that money back because you usually give a deposit. Or those families, they decide, keep it for the next time, whenever they're emotionally and physically ready to try again. And that's usually something that you would either put in your contract or go on a case-by-case basis and really just offer that support. But that's a great question.
All right, thank you.
I just have a question about, I know right now we're in COVID, so it's a shutdown. So pre-COVID, how was it planned? So I'm in my second, third trimester. I call you, I hire you, hospital, then what? So do you go with us? Are you staying at the house in the third trimester? How does this work? Because I know some doulas that, well, I know for a fact there's one celebrity doula, Miss Badu, Erica Badu. She's a professed doula, and sometimes she does stay with her clients all through the process. So how does that work with you?
So when you say all through the process, do you mean like she's living there for 2 weeks before the due date? Like, what do you mean?
Yes, like you're already in the house with me, and what are we doing? How does that work from belly to hospital bed?
So it really depends. I mean, if I was a traveling doula and I, had a client who lived out of province or out of country that really wanted me to be their doula, then yes, I'd be flown out and I'd stay with them until they give birth. But typically in the GTA, usually you don't take clients that are more than a 2-hour driving radius from where you are, because we all know how traffic here is at any time in the year. So you hire me, amazing. We do our prenatal classes in person, maybe over dinner, where we're getting outside, we're physical, hands-on. I'm showing you how to do the double hip squeezes. If I'm not called early enough at the house and it's just you and your mom or your partner helping you through that time and giving you examples of what you can do to comfort yourself through all the pain. But really, you can call me from the first contraction, right? And then I can come to your house, or I can come to the hospital. Most often, I'm getting calls to get to the hospital. And the reason being is that typically we advise our clients during early labor, 0 to 3 centimeters, which can be a couple hours to a couple of weeks long. If your contractions are irregular, if you're able to walk and talk and do things through your contractions, you don't really need as much hands-on support. That's a really good time for you to get a lot of rest, to eat good food, to get some oxytocin going with your partner if you have one, to further the process of labor getting started. It's really an active labor that doulas are called in. This is when you can't talk through your contraction, you can't walk, you got to stop, and it's really painful, or you just need a lot more support. So I'm running around and getting cold cloths and, all these different things when we're in active labor and transition. That's usually around like 5 centimeters to about 9. And then I'm there for the pushing, obviously, and 2 hours afterwards. And that 2 hours afterwards is to, make sure with the healthcare team, the placenta is born and that bonding and attachment has been started with the baby and the parents. So when I say bonding and attachment, I mean that skin to skin. If that family has chosen to breastfeed, we're getting you to try and get that first latch going. The caveat being that first latch can take days and weeks to get. So that's not set up a wrong expectation here, but I'm there to just get that first experience off on the right foot. And then when I come to visit you a couple of days later, once you're discharged for that postpartum visit, then we can bathe the baby. You can tell me how things are going. We'll do the debrief of the birth. I'll help you reorient your postpartum space, because if you wanted a vaginal birth, but then you had a C-section, the house has got to change.
Mm-hmm.
For goodness sake, there's a lot more townhouse condos, right? With all those stairs.
Yeah.
Not do it. I would highly advise against going up and down, up and down, up and down. So now we're going to make a makeshift portable changing table on the main level where maybe you're sleeping for the majority of the day. Maybe I'm doing meal prep. We have water bottles all over the house to keep you hydrated, because that's a huge issue with breastfeeding and recovery, is the lack of hydration. So just all these things is what I do. And that's just labor support. It's the meetings all the way to the postpartum visit and offering you support and guidance. And again, people have been birthing since the dawn of time. It's not like parents can't do this on their own, but I think it's the comfort and the knowledge of knowing that you have that one person who's been there with you from whenever you decided to call them to the baby's born. Because maybe you had your midwife or your doctor, but maybe you didn't. Maybe you had this awesome birth plan, but you didn't get it. And so now we have to work through the trauma, or work through accepting what happened and knowing that however you gave birth. And that's great. So that's kind of typically what that would look like.
Have you had any difficult clients? Like they called you, but you realize once you enter into it, this is going to be a piece of work?
Yep, I think we've all had that. The first time that happened to me, I was like, what they're asking, is this normal? And, my doula mentors are like, no, it's not. It's above and beyond. And so through that experience, I've learned to be really, as a business owner, it's not even about being a doula, it's just as a business owner, being really clear about what you offer and what your boundaries are. And then, I'm not, there's a doula for every person and a person for every doula. And I might not be the doula for every person, and that's totally fine. And that's why we have such a close-knit network where, maybe I'm not the doula for you, and that's totally fine, but I have someone else here who I think would be more in alignment with the kind of experience and support that you want. Whether that's like you want to give birth outside in a creek with the birds flying around you, or you want full medical birth, like don't tell me nothing, knock me out, and give me the baby when I wake up. There's a for every person in that category. And that's the main priority. The priority is not just to get as many clients, is to make sure that the family gets the right kind of support.
Do you have are there a lot of males in this industry, or is this like predominantly a female industry? Like, I was looking at an article that mentioned the first doula, but that was a number of years, first male doula in
Yes,
Canada, I think.
I think he was out in Nova Scotia, I believe.
Yeah.
It is a predominantly female-led organization, but that is changing.
Okay.
With more conversations around being inclusive and all of that. Many of the doula groups that I'm a part of, there's the constant reminding of saying, you can't say, "Hey sisters, hey ladies," because there are men who are doulas in this industry.
Okay.
And yeah, I think it's a great thing. I think there are a lot of male doulas and a wide variety of cases and reasons. I have seen a lot more of them within the LGBTQ plus community,
Okay.
families through that, but they're everywhere, and I think it's awesome.
Okay. Lamar is sharing your this is your Instagram page?
This is my website.
Oh, sorry, it's your website. So okay.
I'm doing it.
It's Shay. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, so we just wanted to get, we'll also drop this in the chat window as well,
Awesome. Thank you.
so that folks will be able to see it.
I'm curious, what was your motivation for having a doula on your podcast?
Me, my sister-in-law gave birth last year and she had a doula. And also, I just had questions. I just wanted to know exactly what it was because she was very determined not to have a regular birth. She was it was just something for her. And I didn't understand what was the big deal. But then now listening to you, I understand. So it makes, yes.
For me, I mean, when Shay told me about it, right? I like I said, I've heard the term, but I've never asked the questions. I would see, like, things on TV, and whether it's in a movie and all these different things. People crack jokes about it,
Yeah.
all sort of stuff. So when she said it, I said, yeah, for sure. Let's do this. I'd love to hear a little bit more about what the work is all about, who's in it, things of that nature. And once again, you're a Black person, right? And anything Black, you're in a particular field. We may not understand it, we may not know it. Okay, so we're all going to learn together, but we're going to put it out there.
Absolutely. And I'm telling you, I'm learning so much even now. I think the interesting with COVID is there's been obviously so much of this, Zoom conversations and trainings and whatnot. And there is a person in Toronto, I believe their Instagram is Black Birth Stories in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're collecting different birthing stories from Black families in Toronto and just compiling their experience, positive, challenging, all of that. And I think it's just a great, it's really important to share those stories because that's how we learn. That's how we connect through stories.
Sorry, what was the name of it?
I believe it's Black Births. Black Birthing Stories. I have to check now. I believe they just started it, but it looks like it's going well. Let me just take a quick look. Sorry.
No worries.
Black Births of Toronto. Black.births.of.Toronto.
Okay.
Telling the reproduction and lactation stories of Black people in Canada.
Okay, and this is
Black Births of Toronto.
This is Instagram. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and the group that I formed, the Ontario Black Doula Society. It's Ontario Black Doulas. If you want to show that as well, we're a collective of 7 doulas, and just doing trainings and running courses and events for doulas and families as well.
Sorry, what is it? Sorry.
Ontario Black Doulas. The second. Yeah. So we actually had the two, if you go down to the bottom there a little bit, the 2 ladies on the right, if you go back up a little bit, those 2 ladies, they are the only 2 Black lactation consultants in Ontario.
Wow.
Okay.
during Black Breastfeeding Week, I interviewed both of them and their stories and, you know, the work that they do and all of that. So it's like kind of shocking, like, what, there's only two, but we have the two at least. That's
in Ontario.
I believe that there is one in Montreal, but like that's it. That's all of Canada, from my understanding.
Oh, all of Canada. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Hypno. Oh, what was that term in your bio there?
Hypnobirth.
Hypnobirthing. What's that about?
So that's another trademark, kind of like Lamaze and whatnot, but it's essentially, I haven't done the training yet, so don't sue me or anybody. But it's essentially meditation for birth.
Oh, okay.
Kind of getting into your body.
Okay.
Yeah, and just meditating the pain through the pain and birth.
I get you.
You're not hypnotized. You are kind of hypnotizing yourself, but not in the way that you'd think, because you're just mind over the body.
Okay. Okay. That's fantastic. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else that you'd want to share with us. You know, we are living in a very scary time now with coronavirus and all these different things. But beyond that, it's the constant wrestling with the different issues that we face in the Black community, right? You know, I always push out there, you know, in terms of neighborhoods that I grew up in and some of the challenges that I've met and things that I've seen, right? You know, whether it's something for individuals who want to get into the industry or whether it's, you know, bringing some insight or something to our community as far as what from your observation, you know, we've got a few minutes, so we can do that.
I mean, what I'll end off with saying is, irregardless, because of COVID, because of, you know, the long history of, you know, our racial oppression and systemic issues, because obviously we all know it didn't just start with George Floyd. It's been long coming.
Yes.
Community is immunity. Community is immunity. And so really, I'm really pushing, like, let's not suffer alone. Let's not suffer in silence. Let's not try and suffer at all. I mean, if life is hard, life is challenging, it's beautiful, it's messy, it's chaotic, but we're all in this together. And so lean on that community. If you don't have it, create it. Reach out to me, reach out to, you lovely folks can direct someone to create community. This is how we heal ourselves. This is how we boost our immunity. This is how we change generational patterns and outcomes. I mean, for goodness sake, there was a story that Brene Brown shared of some tribal village, and these women would go down to the river to wash their clothes in the community, and they spend like half a day there, and they're washing clothes, but they're getting the scoop and they gossip in the story and they're helping each other, and the kids are running around and they're helping raise them. And then the community was approached by some civilized something or other, and they changed, they developed, and they brought in washing machines. So now no one's going to the river to wash their clothes, they're washing them in their homes. And the community almost fell apart because there was no need now. There was no excuse, in a way, for the community and these women to come together and just be together, right? So we always think that to have community, we have to do something, but there are so many organizations. La Leche League is a great organization for helping mothers to help them breastfeed. It's free. You just come and you breastfeed your baby with all these other breastfeeding moms, and you help each other. You're not working on a business. You're not together. And I think that we have to change the narrative that you always have to be productive. Like, survival and thriving is productivity. What are we racing towards? Let's try and race towards building a strong society with a healthy, thriving family. And that is the basis of society. And so if we can invest time and money, this is why I love my work. If we can invest time and money in working with families and dads and moms and kids and siblings, and to empower and educate them and build solid foundations that we haven't had for generations, our community, our society is going to grow and develop, and our future will be that much more secure. It's not only investing money in the future, it's investing money now in these maternal health programs, in daycares, in schools, in after school programs, there's an Instagram account for, it's called Chronicles of a Black Daddy, I believe. You know, there's an Instagram account called Don't Forget Dads. Dads need community.
Mm.
You know, I dream of having a conference or a workshop or something with just Black dads, new Black dads. Are you talking about how it is to be a new dad with your friends, with your buddies? Are you talking about that? Are you talking about the struggles, how sleep deprived you are, how your relationship has changed, what the money is like, if you're scared? Are you talking about that? Because the women do, but it's okay for the women to do that. But are you doing that? And if it's not happening, create that space. That's it. Sorry, I'm getting off my soapbox now.
No worries.
Be happy today. I'm excited.
Love it. You're bringing so much to this conversation, man, and then we like it, and we like the passion. We love the passion too, and we're glad we're able to have you on.
Absolutely.
We need to bring her back on a social justice day. Let's just put it
Yeah,
out there. Like,
let's
got the doula thing. Let's push to the other side.
can definitely do that, man.
Thank you so much for this, and the community itself is just don't not that you are, but please don't undervalue how impactful what you're doing is, because it is.
Appreciate that. All right, so I don't know, Shay, is there anything else you want to say, Lamar?
No,
You good? All right. So that's what we have in terms of your the information you've given to us, Tanicia. We'll have it in the chat window,
Awesome.
right? So that folks will be able to link you. Thanks for coming on once again, man, and God bless you in your ventures.
God bless. Thank you guys.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.